teaching is very important in today's world, especially as technology continues to become increasingly prevalent in our daily life.
Good afternoon, sir. We all know that technology has enhanced our life for the better, especially the learning of the students. Can you tell us some of your background information about your experiences in teaching language, especially in using technology inside the classroom?
Okay, so since students nowadays are more into, let's just say, it's already 21st century, so most of students are already equipped with the knowledge on how to navigate or use effectively technology such as computers, laptops, cell phones, smartphones. So, in my classroom, I used to incorporate teaching English language. For example, there are topics that seemingly difficult for them to understand. So I supplement my discussion using Powtoon. Powtoon is a YouTube presentation where they can get supplementary discussion on the topics. And aside from that, I also give them exercises. For example, there are at present we have the so-called literacy part of the lesson where we try to identify students with difficulties in speaking the language, students with difficulty in participating using English as the medium of instruction. So there were exercises there from the internet that I took and uses as an exercise for the students to enhance their communication skills, their pronunciation of words. So yeah, most of the activities that I implement in the classroom are taken from the internet. But of course, as teachers, our main concern there is to make sure that whatever activities that we took from the internet are just supplementary materials. So this will not be the basis for students learning, but still the teachers functions as a vital facilitator of learning, especially in English language.
The next question, sir, is, as an English teacher, what was the challenges you experienced in integrating technology in language teaching and how it affects your teaching practices? What's the positive and negative experiences you had?
Okay. First and foremost, in Agusan National High School, most of the students here are quote-unquote old. However, there are also transferee from other schools, and some of these students from far-flung areas don't know how to effectively use computers, or they don't have the connections of the internet to at least help them out in their difficulties. So as teachers, it's a bit challenging on our part how are we going to at least provide all of our learners equal opportunities when it comes to effectively using gadgets or internet or laptops, or let's just say even in our classroom we ask our parents as our stakeholders to support our battle cry in making the students learn effectively. So we asked them to support our lesson project. So they helped us to at least achieve a flat screen TV instead of providing Manila paper. So we did utilize it. Teachers do purchase laptops, so we connect it to the television. So it will be, on the part of the students, they will be able to understand how to effectively use the gadgets. And with this, the downside, let's start with the upside or the advantages. It's a good thing that you can utilize these things, okay, the technologies. For example, nowadays we have microphones in our classroom. So the part of the teacher, we will no longer shout okay, or exert much effort on discussing things, knowing the fact that we have these technologies that will make our voice a bit louder. So with those gadgets that we have, it's advantageous on our part since yun na nga, it will not be burden on our part to discuss more of the things. And then if we want to add up, to spice up, to give thrill on the part of the learning of the students, then we can utilize YouTube or other forms of social media, or let's just say Moodle, or if I'm going to have an activities, I can use the wheel chart where names of the students will be in there if I'm going to choose who will be participating. So there will be thrill, the fact that it excites the student whether I am the one who is going to answer the question or not. However, the downside of this one, if the teacher will solely rely on the technology, sometimes you will experience technical glitches, such as while doing a discussion, especially way back on pandemic, where teaching is more of a blended. You will provide modules for the student at the same time you are going to conduct classes online. So since of course internet and communications in not in face to face, so there will be limitations. You will experience blackouts, then the loss of connection, and of course if you are doing activities, for example, and you are incorporating activities from YouTube, and then suddenly the connections went out or shut down, so of course it will hamper your activities. So and because of that, since the connection was lost, the time allotted for that activity as well will be compromised. So yeah, I guess that's it. There will be advantages on the other hand, and also of course one of the problems, especially when we are focusing on the internet, there are ideas, for example, that if the teacher will not provide guidance to the students, they will be able to acquire information from the internet which we consider to be not reliable or credible enough, because there were ideas from the internet that are seemingly downloaded by individuals which mostly focuses on their opinions and not on facts.
Based on your experiences, sir, for you, what technologies you think to be the most effective?
Most effective. As of the moment, I believe, of course, with the advent of social media plus internet, there are tons actually of technologies which are readily available that the students can utilize in their learnings. For example, we have Google, we have YouTube. So I believe it's more on social media. One of the most effective tools that the students can utilize effectively and easily, because Facebook or let's just say YouTube, Google, these are user friendly. So that means it will be handy, easy for the students to manipulate. So for their learnings, it will be helpful. The fact that, as you mentioned earlier, we already have ChatGPT, other forms of tools that they can use. So I guess that's it. Internet is one of the most important things that the students can utilize in their learning process.
How it helped the students to engage more in learning and improve their learning outcomes?
Okay. I believe you are familiar with TikTok, right? So my students nowadays, especially when I am going to ask them exercises such as word of the day, or trivia, or let's just say activities that enhances their communication skills, they will direct their attention on TikTok, because there are tons of guides on pronunciation, on how they're going to formulate words or sentences using appropriate words, so word usage. So I believe it helped them a lot since it guides them on proper use of words, proper enunciation, proper spelling, and proper composition and organization of sentences.
The last question of my part is, integrating technology in language teaching is not easy as we think. Teachers may encounter positive and negative effects toward teaching. Now, sir, can you describe to us some of the obstacles you experienced and what did you do, or what's your way to overcome it?
Okay, that's true. Actually, it's very challenging, as you say, incorporating technology to English language or learning the language, so to speak. As teachers, maybe the most challenging part is how am I going to make sure that my students will be able to appreciate the importance of technologies and as an ally in their learning process, and not as mere tool, or let's just say they will totally depend on the technology, because it's undeniable that most students nowadays have problems when it comes to comprehension due to the fact that most of the things that they need, internet will provide them. So as teachers, our part there is to make sure that even with the presence of technology, we'll still be able to craft activities that will help the students not to solely depend on the internet. Instead, they will still read, they will still be able to enhance their critical thinking skills. So I used to give them activities such as, from the internet, they're going to get paragraphs or sentences, and they're going to state it in my class as form of trivia, and then they will provide their stand or their learnings or the lessons that they obtained out from reading the text. So at least out from the text they have taken from the internet, they will also use their critical thinking skills to scrutinize or critique the provided text from the internet.
Thank you, sir. So in teaching, sir, teacher must ensure that his or her student must pay attention and listen actively. But sometimes there are students who are not paying attention when the teacher is teaching. So as a language teacher or an effective teacher, what is your technique or strategies for you to get the attention of your student and actively participate about the discussion? And after that one, how will you introduce them the use of technology in their lesson?
Okay. So actually, I do that oftentimes, and I believe one of your classmates here know how did I apply it in my lesson. Every time, especially if I have activities in my classroom in English, so every time I went inside or discuss something in the class, for me to make sure that my students are actively engaged in my discussion, I used to incorporate my lessons using wheel of names, using the internet, where I put their names. Then every time that I'm going to ask questions, I just press it and it will select names of students. So nobody will sleep. They will be actively preparing for themselves to be called at times when their names will be selected. So with that form of strategy, your students will not sleep, because of course when their name appears to be in the screen, so they will stand. Then I'm going to ask questions, and if they cannot answer, then they will stand for the rest of the time, as long as nobody answers the questions correctly. And also, aside from that, aside from providing names in the screen so they won't sleep, from time to time I roam around, okay, from back and forth, from front to back, just to make sure that Nobody is using cell phones during my discussion or doing unnecessary stuff while I am doing my teaching. So these strategies are very effective. The fact that the students will be observing, okay, where their teachers are. Because if the teacher will just stationary, they will stay in the middle, in front. Some students at the back will just sleep, okay, or do mobile games in their cell phones, since the teacher are not roaming around. But if the teacher will roam around, okay, at least it will give them the idea of, hey, let's focus first on the discussion, because our teacher might caught us doing unnecessary things and will be penalized. So that is how I make sure that my students are actively engaged in my discussion. And yeah, and to answer the next question, how did you incorporate technology? I did mention earlier that every time I'm going to have orals, I make sure that their names are on the screen. So at least from time to time, they will be paying attention to the screen whether who is already in charge on the next question asked by the teacher.
Next question, sir, is we mentioned earlier, we asked you earlier some struggles and experiences you've already experienced, and also you have your own teaching technique. So by integrating those techniques, have you seen changes in your students' engagement in your class or any improvement?
Yes. There is a huge difference between the very first time that I did my teaching. Then on the latter part, I was able to actually observe that there is a slight, okay? To some there is a slight change, but to some also there is a huge difference between their learning process. Knowing the fact that it is very important for a teacher to do how to call that differentiated instructions. The fact that students do have different learning styles. So most of the time, I used to adjust my teaching strategies to the type of student that I have. If for example, now I have students from accountancy, business, and management. So I used to incorporate my discussion on marketing, on businesses. But if I am to teach, I have also grade 11 Bill Pilar, where my students there are purely a product of sports. So I also incorporate my discussion on sports, on ball games, or in mobile games. So I get to catch or caught their attention, so they will be able to actively engage in my discussion. Because if you focus on one strategy, they might take it bias or inappropriate in their level of understanding. But if you go down, although you are not, the point of going down their level is not to compromise the quality of your discussion, but it is your way to catch their attention, their interest, to provide thrill and fun while learning the process of speaking the language.
Okay, sir. Next is, we all know that in this generation, the life of a teacher and a student when it comes to teaching and learning is very easy because of technology. So what is your advice for those educators who are interested in integrating technology and language teaching, and what are some tips that you can give or pitfalls that they need to avoid?
Okay. As I was already teaching for almost a decade in this profession, so utilizing making technology as an ally is really advantageous on the part of the teacher. I did mention earlier that it makes our life easier for teachers, creating PowerPoint presentation, sourcing out information for your discussion, making sure that you will be able to supplement or provide supplementary materials in your discussion. It will be handy, knowing the fact that internet has it all. Okay, However, as teachers also, you need to identify the strengths and weaknesses of the gadgets or the technologies that you're using. For example, if you're using internet, since the internet solely rely on, of course, electricity. So as teachers, you need to have backup plans. Okay, that in that way, if things might happen, okay, uncontrollable situation or circumstance, at least you have backup plans that if these things happen, you still be able to continue your discussion. You'll be able to at least conduct whatever plans you have for that period of time. Because if you only have one strategy, or let's just say one focus, okay, I am going to discuss using YouTube or this one or that one, and if time comes that internet shut down or blackout, sprout in the picture, so of course it will disrupt your discussion. But of course, knowing that you have tons of ways in how you're going to proceed with your discussion, well, the good thing is you can still continue your way of discussing things.
Sir, I guess that's the last question. So we're very grateful, no, sir. Thank you for your time and for giving us some strategies. We've learned a lot from you. It's not a lot, but at least maybe we can use that in our when we are already teaching. And we're very grateful that you welcomed us, and also you give us some information when it comes to teaching. I know that there are some experiences that maybe it's advantages or disadvantages, but for me as a teacher, you are not just only teaching in front, but you are making the way, or you are the way of your students into their journey. So we are very grateful, and thank you for your time.